Hello guys, I am here with Sujan Patel. How are you, Sujan?
Good. Yourself? Thank you
Excellent.
for having me.
It's good to have you on the show here. So maybe you guys don't know, but Sujan is actually Neil's cousin, Neil Patel's cousin, which is also pretty well known. So Sujan Patel is a data-driven marketer and entrepreneur. He is the co-founder of WebProfits US, a growth marketing agency, as well as software companies Narrow.io and ContentMarketer.io. Which are tools to help marketers build their Twitter following and scale content marketing efforts. Sujan is an avid writer and to publications such as Forbes, WSJ, Inc., and Entrepreneur Magazine. In his 13 years in digital marketing, Sujan has helped companies like Salesforce, TurboTax, Sony, Mint, and hundreds of others to acquire more customers, build brand awareness, and grow their businesses. Sujan took everything he learned in his career and wrote a book to help marketers with growth with his book, 100 Days of Growth, which has sold over 30,000 copies last year alone. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Super excited to talk to you about growth today.
So first question I have for you is, how did you start your journey in growth and digital marketing?
Yeah, so I started off as an SEO years ago, back in 2001, 2002, made an e-commerce website, and this is before the luxury of Shopify, BigCommerce, and those types of companies. So building it using a lot more rudimentary of a platform. I put a lot of money into it. I was in high school, college timeframe, and so built the website. No one came, so I figured out I have to figure out a way to get people there. So stumbled on SEO. The business failed, but I successfully kind of kickstarted my SEO career. And then as SEO has evolved over time, it's become really just all things marketing. And so over time, I've just expanded beyond SEO to just all things digital marketing. And growth has always been something I've been measuring myself against, is what is actual growth numbers. I mean, there's lots of fancy numbers and things you can measure against, but at the end of the day, it comes down to growth, which is really why you're doing digital marketing in the first place. So growth is something, is probably a new name for something I've been going off of. I call it ROI. I call it fast-paced kind of growth marketing, right? But anyways, yeah, that's kind of my foray into growth and digital marketing.
So could you tell us a little bit more about your company, WebProfits?
Yeah, so WebProfits is a growth marketing agency. When I say growth marketing, I mean we don't do fluff. We don't focus only on one channel, or we're not going to help you. We can't help you with just SEO and PPC. When we help companies, we're going to help them with all things growth, and we peel back the layers, going into the organization. What else can they be doing on the customer support side? So we're looking at really all parts of that funnel, more than just driving more traffic or increasing conversions. And the service that we provide right now, or there's actually two. One is content marketing, which is the only service that we provide like kind of a la carte. But the other one is called fluid marketing. And really what that means is we come to an organization, or if we're talking to a potential client, we want to understand what they're struggling with, what are their channels that have been helped, like has got them there, what are bigger opportunities, and we'll help them with all things growth. And our fluid service will essentially adjust over the month to what we focus on. So we may start with heavy emphasis on, let's say, Facebook ads, because that's a great opportunity. But let's say 3-6 months in, that's going to be on optimization mode. We've done a lot of the work. We may shift our focus to SEO or content. So we really focus on omni-channel approach, leveraging any advantage a customer has to grow.
Cool. So in your opinion, what would be the top 3 qualities that a growth hacker or a digital marketer should have?
First and foremost, I think it's hustle. Hustle is, I think, lacking in most people, not just marketers. What I mean by hustle is you got to figure stuff out, right? I get lots of emails lately around people asking me questions, and my response is Google it. learn as much as you can by reading publicly available information. And I guarantee you there is publicly available information on every topic. You can be an expert coin collector. I want to help. I want to help. And so ask people for help once you've gotten stuck, or once you've gotten to a point and you're like, I've got this information. This is what I've done. I'm stuck. Can you help me? That to me is hustle. People go immediately to the kind of easy route, I think. So that's number one, the hustle, and it's working long hours. It's doing things that suck, right? So some of my biggest success in marketing has come from working with customer support. It's come from sending cold emails. Has come and doing the dirty work that you would probably outsource to a VA or something like that myself. Now, at some point, we're going to scale that. You know, I've scaled those channels or tactics, but at the end of the day, it was putting in willingness to put in that hard work and doing it. So number one is hustle. Number two is agility and understanding that it's not necessarily tactics or certain channels that are always going to help you grow. You have to think beyond the channel and think really to growth. What is going to help a company, your company, or whoever you're working with grow? That may not come from things you're used to. So when I say agility, it's being able to move around, being uncomfortable, doing things again that are not sexy. And the last thing is testing. To be honest, nobody has a silver bullet. There is no silver bullet. Why work with me over someone else? It's probably because I'm more relevant. I have more experience. Again, that could be said for someone else. So it's really, there's no silver bullet. Digital marketing has become so complex. It's just as complex as offline marketing, and if not even more. And it's saturated. People are moving fast. People with bigger budgets you're competing with those guys. So you have to be willing to get uncomfortable and learn and test new things, because you're going to find things that work, and then you got to figure out how to scale them.
So to recap, the first one was hustle, the second agility, and the third was testing. Who are some of the successful growth hackers that you've learned from over the years or inspired you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's so many people. I really love what Heaton Shaw and Steli FT are doing on the startup chat. Heaton's from Kissmetrics Crazy Egg, and Steli's from Close.io. Great podcast and great community around startup people. It's not really what they say, it's what they do, and it's the fact that they're solving problems, which is awesome, and bringing people to that community. Obviously, Neil Patel, Dan Martell is a great guy. He's taught me a lot. Dan Martell was of Clarity.fm and Flowtown before that. He taught me kind of the power of mastermind dinners and networking, and really just like going out there. Even simple things like how to ask for advice. Guys like Gary Vee are awesome inspirations to see what they're doing. Their hustle. I work probably 50% of, if that, of what Gary Vee works, and so that teaches me how to be a better hustle. So I'm not looking these days. I don't look at the content of these people. I look at their actions and the little things they do outside of that, that really inspire me. Morgan Brown's another great guy, and Sean Ellis, again, creating a great community around this. But there's so many people that it's hard to kind of list off these things. And you know what? It's kind of like the counter to that is it doesn't matter, right? Like these guys are all great and they're inspiration. You can read all the knowledge you want on growth hacking and growth, but at the end of the day, it's not about what you read. It's about actions, testing, and then figuring stuff out, and then scaling, right? So at the end of the day, it's execution is the key. And these people personally inspire me to execute.
So I would have a lot more questions here, but the last one that we're going to do for this interview is what are your top 3 pieces of advice for growth hackers?
Yeah, so one, look, don't believe everything you read. It's probably true, but it's very situational. Everyone that writes an article on like how Hotmail did this, or how Airbnb grew by this, or how my company did this and that happened. Look, it probably did happen. Use that for inspiration. Minimize, I agree. I think you should minimize your reading, or silo it to where you're reading maybe 1 hour a day, or like not throughout the day, but focus on the execution. So that's tip number one, is focus on execution and try to read less, and try to don't ever think you're going to get the same results. Think, oh, this is something I can test. Number two is split up your ideas and your planning. So that is right brain and left brain thinking, meaning your ideas should never be limited, but you don't want to execute and plan when you should execute your ideas when you're thinking so freely. You need to write everything down. I think so many people make this mistake, is that they may be great at executing, but they don't execute on the right things. And I've made this mistake many, many times. In fact, recently, I make it probably fairly often because I'm working on so many companies. But at the end of the day, let your right brain be creative and brainstorm ideas. Write them down on an Excel, write them down on a napkin, right? But make sure you come back and you think about what's the impact of that, maybe even sleep on it, and the next day plan when you can execute those based off of resources required and the impact it's gonna have. I emphasize the impact because tactics are never gonna be a winning strategy. And that's kind of my last piece of advice, is that, look, whatever you're doing is getting old. Digital marketing and growth moves fast. The lifespan of a tactic or a strategy is getting shorter and shorter, and that's okay, because the resources and tools and the avenues for us to, as marketers, to grow and leverage is getting bigger, right? So it kind of counters things out. So always be thinking about what the next thing is going to be, and think about how you can test. So that way, as you have scalable channels that you're working on for your business that are consistently growing or predictable growth, you're also testing in new channels that may be unproven, but you still have proven channels on top of unproven, so that you have a chart, a graph that's consistent growth, and then you have these crazy graphs of ups and downs of things that could work. And realistically, probably not going to get everything you test to work, maybe 1 or 2 out of 10, but that's okay. You still have the consistency. So combining those two are very, very powerful. Never rely when you're done or out of scalability on your current channels to then start testing. You've already lost a strong foothold on growth.
Yeah, so to recap, I like to do that. Number one was to focus on execution and read less. To split up your ideas and your planning, so the brainstorming and then the execution. And to always think about the next thing and explore and have your constant kind of growth as your basis.
Yeah, and I recommend that you spend 25–30% of your time in the exploration phase.
Mm-hmm.
This will give you, also help you and your team be creative and think outside that box, because frankly, as a marketer, the worst thing you can do is not innovate, because in 6 months, a year, your strategy is going to be either milked completely dry or not as scalable. And you can see, if you look at like Facebook ads, years ago, they were the hottest thing, right? You can get clicks for cheap. Now it's you're paying more than AdWords sometimes in how much things cost. So things get expensive, and if your economics don't work out, if you're not first there or like early in, you may be starting at like $6 or $3 CPCs, and that may never work for you.
Sujan, thank you so much for doing the interview and spending time with us. And I look forward to keeping the channel open and keep talking.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.